folks. Happy Friday and welcome to the Freedom from the Press podcast. My name is Jason Roberts and I'm here with my partner in crime,
Todd Peterson. Jason, it is a red and blue flannel kind of day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I gotta say, nothing like, and I even got this cool Superman looking red, white, and blue shirt for my friends that I Love My Freedom. God, I love those guys.
And Jason, plug for our own store if you want to get this hat that I'm wearing right now. Folks, the AmericanTribuneStore.com. We'll get our plugs out of the way and then we'll get into the program here. Headline today, though, Trump's latest media maelstrom. Folks, this is a doozy. It has made the rounds on the internet. I am sure you have seen clips if you're plugged into CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. So you've seen a certain portrayal of what Trump made recently at a rally. But we're going to go through the truth, give you the facts. And then we just want to highlight today so many different ways. This has been our theme lately of the way the media just flat out lies to you.
I got to say, so Todd and I, we do our podcast every Friday. And throughout the week, we say, oh, this would be a fun topic. This would be a fun topic. And I mean, full disclosure, we're going to be talking about the bloodbath hoax. That's where we're going to start. And this arc has gone almost full circle in 7 days. And for those of us on the right or Trump supporters, we know, okay, this is who Todd and I could play 25 videos showing how everybody uses the word bloodbath, that kind of thing. But to see the reaction on the left, and it's funny, we want to start, giving a shout out to Scott Adams. Todd and I both love Scott Adams, and he had a perfect take on this situation. Todd, I'll let you.
Folks, I'm just going to read it. If you're listening on audio, or you're going to listen to this a bit later, you're driving in the car, you can't take a look at the audio. You wonder why, and Jason and I ask this question all the time, you present facts. You just present basic evidence and common sense to your leftist Biden voting friends and family members, and you wonder why it never sinks in. It's because they live in a different world entirely, manufactured by the media, manufactured by years and years of just absorbing the lies that they tell you. So his tweet's pretty long, but we're going to go through it here. He says, most of what looks like political disagreement is simply Democrats not understanding how the real world works. Ding, ding, ding. We can stop right there. Perfect summation of Democrats. They don't understand bank loans or the difference between cash and physical assets. We learned that this month. And just to elaborate on that, Ted Lieu sent out a tweet talking about how Donald Trump is worth billions of dollars. Therefore, he will have no problem paying a $454 million fine from Letitia James. Jason, I don't know about you. I have a certain equity in my lifestyle that is not translated to cash on hand because I have real estate. I have stock market investments. I have other things that I invest in. If you find me $100,000 today, I don't have that in cash because I'm not an idiot. I don't keep it in a mattress under my bed. But Democrats apparently think your net worth is the same to your liquidity. Adams continues, they don't understand that money makes both news and science mostly fake. Hang on to that thought. We're going to get back to that one with another tweet in just a second. They don't understand how DEI is a supply problem, not a demand problem. They don't understand how free speech works or the point at all. I mean, case in point, we're on Facebook right now. We have to be careful what we say. They think the experts are telling the truth. Again, put a pin in that. We have a tweet in just a second to go through that one. They don't understand the degree to which their opinions are the result of intentional brainwashing. Highlight that one, put it in bold. They do not realize how much they have been lied to. It goes on, though. Scott Adams was on fire. They think unlimited empathy for immigrants can work out well. I mean, you've seen the stories lately about what's happened with that. They think there are too many humans in the world, not too few. I think that's a huge point. They think the national debt is not a big issue. They think releasing criminals from jail improves the lives of some communities. They think removing guns from citizens does not create a risk of government abuse. They think crimes not proven in court didn't happen. They think kids are looking at Trump as a potential role model. They think there is no big risk from TikTok compared to American-controlled social media. And they don't know why half of their kids are suddenly LGBTQ against all odds. Man, there it is, folks.
I got to say, it's almost like Scott Adams was in our group chat as we were talking about what points we want to make and how we're going to show some great examples of it. And God, I love it. And already got the replies dropping in. Paula, Democrats are dumb, Democrats. I'm going to tell you what, Paula, and we're going to show some of this today. Your neighbor. So once again, not talking about the politicians or the crazy blue-haired liberal with 12 cats. Your neighbor who's a Democrat, they're brainwashed. They get fed incomplete, imperfect information in a way that makes them live in a completely different reality. And we've got a great example to fire it off.
You want to do Ted Lieu right away?
Well, let's start with Ted Lieu, just because Ted Lieu.
We have a 7-second clip, folks. This is the world they live in.
Best way to oppose fake news is for people to watch outlets like MSNBC, where you report real news all the time.
All right. We talked about how your Democrat voting friends are just brainwashed. Yes, the politicians like him, I think I'm allowed to say this, are just dumb. AOC, Ted Lieu, Eric Swallow, they simply don't know how the world works. This is the same man that decided that Trump's net worth of billions of dollars would enable him to just pay an almost $500 million cash penalty, no issue, because that's his net worth. Here he is saying that MSNBC tells you the truth. And if you're not watching MSNBC, then you're living in a different world. I mean, folks, it is so far, we are so far apart nowadays. You cannot make it up. But Jason, we wanted to get to the bloodbath comments.
Yeah, so let's start. So on Sunday afternoon, Donald Trump is at a rally in Ohio. Donald Trump is an outspoken critic of electric vehicles. And I'll be honest, we have our website, theamericantribune.com. We share a ton of articles about how stupid EVs are. Electric vehicles, the federal government has pumped in hundreds of millions of dollars in the Green New Deal legislation that Joe Biden has done. They're trying to make it work. You can wonder what reasons, and we've opined on that on different podcasts. EVs are a flop. Other than Tesla, nobody's buying them. They do more pollution than gas cars, as some studies have come out and shown. They're just not working. So Donald Trump is in Georgia, and he's railing on about how bad EVs are for the economy and for the nation. And for those who watched last week's episode, we talked about Occupy Democrats, which is a leftist, left-wing group. We talked about how they don't get censored, but we do. Well, another one of those groups is called the Midas Touch. It's Midas Group, and they have a Twitter account. I think it's ACYN or something like that. And they dropped this video clip on Twitter.
And you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine.
So they drop a clip and they say, if I'm not elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. Now, you hear a little bit at the beginning and a little bit at the end on that clip of how Trump is talking about EVs. Todd, should we play the full clip?
You know, context is important, folks. So if you have a friend that gets their news from MSNBC or CNN, that is the clip they played. And we've got some astounding stats on the back end of these clips here to show you. But they believe that he was talking about what his supporters and voters will do if he doesn't win the election. That is the implication by snippeting it just to that point here. But here is Trump's actual comments.
Mexico has taken, over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it. Went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine.
Well, that's a different twist.
I was going to say, there isn't even any context needed for this. Clearly, Donald Trump is talking about unfair economic practices of China, trying to send in cars into America, undercutting, destroying American manufacturing. Bloodbath has been used, and we could play a million clips about bloodbath being used in economic terms when things go poorly. So last Sunday, the initial clip drops on a left-wing radical source. Doesn't get fact-checked, although it started getting community noted. The within an hour, the full clip drops, community notes start hitting Twitter, all that sort of thing. But your lefty Democrat neighbor didn't see those notes. They're not on Twitter. They don't follow this stuff. They don't watch podcasts like ours, which is, let's give a shout out. That's why Todd and I make content like this. That's why we ask you to share it, especially with people you might not politically agree with. But clearly, there is no story here. So you'd think that the story would drop out, Todd. Did the story drop out?
You would think so, but then again, it's Donald Trump, and his polls are showing him stronger and stronger. They've got to find a way to gin up more fear. Jason, I know we didn't plan this clip, but I'm going to pop it in here. End Wokeness tweeted this. I have not confirmed that this is real or not, but it is believable to me. If you look at when Donald Trump made those comments, here's Google's definition of bloodbath, which again, a common phrase in politics, media, you name it. We're not going to go through all the examples, but it has been used since time immemorial. On March 17th, the definition of bloodbath was a ruthless slaughter of a great number of people or a massacre, informal, a period of disastrous loss or reversal. I'm trying to think. I don't know if our entire image got put up there.
No, so essentially on the first image before Trump said it, the definition referred to negative financial outcomes. And then miraculously by
Thursday, March 21st, I'll just read this out here. The new definition, according to Wokeness on Twitter, an event or situation in which many people are killed in a violent manner. Notice that they got rid of all of the other sort of roundabout ways to use it, not directly correlated to violence. When Trump came out with that comment, the media went in full spin mode, and then they said that comment only means now a violent outcome, implying that Donald Trump supporters, again, would act out in a bloodbath sort of manner because they didn't like the outcome of the elections.
Yeah, and I got to say, so Sunday, you see the clip come out, you see the debunk happen. Todd and I are in the news on Twitter all the time, and you know, C-SPAN or whatever. We saw the speech, and we're like, okay, this is debunked. This is clearly debunked. Everybody's called it out. Let's go back to the video of Nancy Pelosi on Sunday. Do you have that one?
Yeah, we can pull up some Nancy here.
Yeah, so this was Nancy on Sunday.
Been predicting a bloodbath. What does that mean? He's going to exact a bloodbath? There's something wrong here. How respectful I am of the American people and their goodness. But how much more do they have to see from him to understand that this isn't what our country is about? Praising Hitler, praising the Russians. Honestly, condemning our soldiers for losing or dying in war or being captured in war. It said, what's wrong with Russia? They defeated Hitler. What about the millions of Americans who risked or gave their lives? What about him saying that soldiers buried in Europe, he didn't want to visit them because they were losers?
So let's put this timeline together. Sunday, Trump makes the comment, clearly an economic comment. It gets debunked in real time on Twitter. So those of us on the right who are plugged into the news are like, this will go away. Sunday, Nancy Pelosi doubles down on it, and she's not alone. We could play 40 minutes worth of clips that are all politicians or pundits on the left talking about the bloodbath comment. Todd, thoughts on that?
Here, I'm going to rewind the video. Take a look at Nancy Pelosi for just a second.
Russia, they defeated Hitler. What about the millions of Americans who risked or gave their lives? What about him saying that?
Here's Nancy checking her notes. Oh, what else do I need to say about Donald Trump? She starts to look down, read her little deal there. But how many stories about Donald Trump was she able to cram into just like 30 seconds? You better believe this, everything that we tell you about Donald Trump, just hammering home the point that Trump is the bad guy. Don't have a chance to think through with yourself. Like, well, I think that got debunked. I think that story got debunked. Nope. They're just going to keep saying it over and over again. Joe Biden will probably run again on the Charlottesville hoax, which we debunked in our very first episode of this podcast series. If you go to the entire clip, it is never hard to find the truth, but here is the media giving you just the snippet to present a false reality to you. And that is why, Jason, do you want to pop up that other headline now?
Yeah, let's go to the headline. So Todd and I, when this dropped, we're like, oh, this is a perfect example. And folks, this is an article from the Post Millennial quoting the Rasmussen reports. So they just did a poll. This just came out this morning. The poll conducted by Rasmussen Reports found that 60% of U.S. voters agreed with the statement, the media is truly the enemy of the people. So maybe we're winning. 60% no, the media is the enemy of the people. That is up 1 point from May, 59%. 49% of likely voters said they believe Trump was in fact talking about auto workers losing jobs, while 40% believe he was talking about widespread political violence. Let that sink in, folks. You just saw the clip video, the full video. If you wonder how pervasive and how effective the media is, if you're standing in line at the grocery store and there are 10 people, 4 of those people have been convinced by the media that Donald Trump was talking about bloodshed, not talking about the auto industry. Let that thing sink in.
That is a hard number to fathom here. And you have to remember, if they start to question it, this is how fragile their worldview is. If you are able to show them that full clip and get them to accept that, oh, wait, Donald Trump was talking about the automobile industry, at that point, if they are honest enough, they're going to say, they lied about that one, and it was so obvious a lie. I wonder what else they lied about. These people have to believe the lies at this point because they are clinging on desperately to this false worldview created by the media because it would fall like dominoes. Okay, they made up that story. I wonder what else they made up. That's a scary thought for a leftist.
Well, and it's nuts too because this is all unfolded in like 5 or 6 days, where usually things take a little longer to debunk. Should we talk about horse dewormer quick?
Okay, let's do the horse dewormer.
All right. I got to preface this, folks. We are on some platforms, Rumble, Twitter. We can say what we want. We're also streaming on Facebook and YouTube. That's a little more cautious. So they limit what you can say. So to be very careful. For those who remember a certain pandemic, there was medicine, which, by the way, we're not giving medical advice. There was medicine that some people were saying was effective. That medicine happened to be ivermectin, which was a Nobel Prize winning antiviral medication. No, it won a Nobel Prize. It was one of the more successful medicines. People thought it might help during the pandemic. The companies, especially the companies who were developing other technologies to counter that, didn't like that. So, Todd, what did they call it?
Well, folks, this is a famous tweet. The FDA is back in the news right now because they lost a court battle. They now have to amend all of their social media posts about the information that the FDA, was spreading during the course of the pandemic. This tweet, at a time when there was a lot of hesitancy, let's say, Jason, to take some of the more government-prescribed courses of treatment, the FDA tweeted out, "You are not a horse, you are not a cow. Serious, y'all, stop it." And they called you horse paste eaters. They said that ivermectin was simply a horse dewormer. It was for livestock. It was for animals. It was not for human consumption. And again, people ask the question, well, wait a second. It's won a Nobel Prize for treatment for river blindness, parasites, viruses around the world. It had been estimated that billions of doses had been given worldwide, particularly in these third world countries where ivermectin was a cheap and available drug to treat such issues. It has now come out, folks. Trust the experts that the experts must have known this. I'm only speculating, Facebook. They must have known that there could have been some safety and efficacy involved with it. However, in order to get other treatments pushed forward in the market and into the arms of Americans, you weren't allowed to think that.
And it's remarkable because going back in history, and this kind of dovetails into our next topic, the KJP with Biden versus Missouri. So as you think about all this stuff, folks, so we just debunked in real time the bloodbath hoax. And we showed you 40% of Americans believe the bloodbath hoax. Terrifying. Now, we reference back to another hoax, the ivermectin one, where they said, oh, if you take this medicine, you're not a horse, you're not a cow. They call you a horse paste eater. You still hear the media make reference to that. Now it turns out that they have to go back. The FDA has to to revise their statements, take down those social media posts. Turns out a Nobel Prize winning medication might have had some correlation. But when we talk about the state of free speech in America, it's pretty terrifying, because when you have social media companies that can control what you can or can't say, this podcast is a great example. There's certain language we'd like to use on some of these platforms that if we did, they would take our video down immediately. So that's why you've got to be a little careful and hope your audience is a little distinguishing. But this week, so Biden administration versus Missouri is in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court or Missouri is suing the Biden administration, saying that they were suppressing speech on big tech platforms during both the pandemic and the 2020 election. Because what they were doing is, if you were expressing an alternative viewpoint, they were either nuking your account, which means your Facebook got deleted. They were suppressing reach. They were doing everything they could to limit that free speech. And Todd, what's your thoughts on free speech?
It's pretty important. The First Amendment, and I think this needs to be a crash course as well for Democrats. The First Amendment is a protection for us against the government. It says the government cannot censor your speech. Pretty clear cut. However, during those events that you talked about, Jason, it seemed that they had a large hand, let's say, in dictating, pushing some of these big tech companies in a certain direction, that they wanted to make sure a narrative was formed and that competing opinions were not allowed in it.
Yeah, in fact, hang on one sec. I mean, just to read the text of the First Amendment. Oh God, I should have had this right.
Committed to memory.
What's that?
Committed to memory.
Yeah. First Amendment: Congress shall make no law restricting or establishing of religion, or prohibiting free speech or the exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, the right of people to peacefully assemble and to petition government for redress of grievances. So clearly, the First Amendment is a citizen's right that the government cannot infringe on our ability to speak our opinions. The only time judicially where free speech has been approved to be limited, they call it the yelling fire in a theater, where if you say something that is a direct call to action for negative consequences for somebody, they limit that. But Todd, should we play what Kenji Walker said?
I think we should. Can we put a pin in that for a second, though? Markel Jordan, thank you for joining us today. Jason, you and I both love going to different opinions here. Markel, we would love to have a conversation with you. If you're still watching us, let us know in the chat here. Just kind of curious where you're coming from here. If you have any comments on the bloodbath comment. And again, asking the question, we just debunked that in real time. It was debunked in a matter of hours on Twitter, where a little more free speech might be allowed there. But do you take issue with our discussion of the bloodbath comment? And like I said before, does that prompt you to think that if they lied about that one so easily, what else might they have lied about? Are you certain that Trump should be locked up for 1,000 lifetimes, or times 1,000, how you phrased it? Curious what crimes he has committed in your eyes there. But yes, Jason, let's hope that Markel comes back. But why don't we get to a sitting Supreme Court justice that has a different viewpoint on the First Amendment? Folks, I hope you're sitting down for this one.
My biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods. I mean, what would you have the government do? I've heard you say a couple times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe, don't do it, is not going to get it done. And so I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country, and you seem to be suggesting that that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information.
Yikes. And Jason, I was trying to wade through. She's using some legalese approach. It's not necessarily how everyday folks talk. And so you might be listening to this. Some of it goes over your head a little bit. But folks, I'm going to translate how she was speaking. She was asking a question about how this person speaking in front of the Supreme Court could justify following the First Amendment, saying government can't do that because it's written here in the Constitution. And Ketanji Brown Jackson is saying, well, hold on a second. What about safety? And of course, Jason, we have seen what public safety means in America. It means it's defined by a group of so-called experts that, well, maybe like the FDA, don't always get it right the first time, and maybe for malicious reasons too.
I was sitting here and I'm like, we all knew she was terrible when they asked her at her confirmation hearing, what's a woman? And she had no answer. And that should have been a tip off that you shouldn't have been in charge or on the Supreme Court. But what she just said is chilling. Like, the hair on the back of your neck should stand up and you go, whoa, whoa, whoa. The First Amendment was unequivocal when the founders wrote it. The government can't restrict speech. And I was actually listening to this hearing this week, and she said, well, what happens if somebody posts something instructing kids to do something that hurts themselves, jumping off a building? Shouldn't the platform be able to take it down? And the lawyer said, you know, that's not the First Amendment. The First Amendment should be the administration should put out duplicate or other speech saying kids don't jump off a building, which is how communication in America is supposed to work. You've probably heard the phrase, you don't suppress bad speech, you give more good speech. So you don't stop them from saying jump off the building. You say, no, 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 jumping off the building's stupid. And then Americans get to decide. And you have Ketanji Brown saying, no, 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 the government should be able to restrict speech for your own good. Now,
and who decides, by the way, what is for your good? And folks, if you even are like, well, I don't want kids jumping off the bridge, so I'm okay with that one exception, just ask yourself, does it stop right there? Or just maybe, does government continue to push a little bit more and more because, well, jumping off is bad. Well, taking ivermectin is bad. Well, leaving your house and going to work is bad. At what point might you actually say, you know what? It's better that government doesn't do any of that because I don't need a police nanny state. I will make decisions for myself. When we have free will and freedom, that means that things will happen sometimes that are unfortunate, but it is better to have something like that happen than have government dictate your entire life.
And this is part of why this is so important, is how the left wins is they whittle in. They get you to agree to that one little thing. Hey, if they're posting videos saying you should jump off the roof, shouldn't we be able to take that down? And the empathetic person in you goes, yeah, you might be right. Take it down. Don't tell people to jump off the roof. Our founders were way smarter than any of us. They said, no, people get to say that. And you've got to hope people are smart enough to know not to do that. And
well, Jason, you hope they're smart enough. I'm going to bring this number back up, folks. 40% still believe Trump was talking about a violent political bloodbath. So
it's tough. But to put this in a real world perspective, so the Trump bloodbath hoax was around the EV industry. Why are they pushing the EV industry, Todd?
Could it be, and I'm going to be careful with what we're saying on Facebook, Jason, could it be that they have other agendas that they're trying to get across at the same time?
They might. But the reason they're justifying it with is because of the climate emergency.
Uh-oh.
How many times have you heard climate emergency, climate crisis, climate? They've actually asked Joe Biden to declare the climate a government emergency. Now, what would happen if the climate was declared an emergency under Ketanji Walker Brown's logic?
Well, it is so dangerous that you're not allowed to think for yourself anymore. Government knows what's best, and they will do everything in their power and more than that to make sure that they keep you safe.
Right. Now let's put it in perspective. What does this look like in the real world, folks? So we wrote an article a couple weeks ago on the American Tribune. We've done a lot of electric vehicle articles because some of these things are just so stupid. One of the articles we wrote is electric vehicles. It turns out they are super heavy. And because they're super heavy, your infrastructure on the road can't handle them. It's too hard on the roads themselves and the guardrails. because it turns out the poundage they were rated for, like EVs, are way heavier than that. It was actually fascinating. There was a study came out. We cited the article, that sort of thing. If they declare climate an emergency and Kenji Walker Brown gets her in urgent to protect you, we can limit your speech, that would prohibit the AmericanTribune.com for writing an article about EVs when it's talking about the obvious infrastructure shortcomings that we have. Think of that, Todd.
Frightening stuff. Very frightening stuff, Jason.
Yeah.
And Jason, I do want to plug, folks, this video is on our YouTube channel. That's right. We broadcast on Google YouTube in addition to Rumble. I know we want to move everything to Rumble eventually, but folks, if you like this video and others like that, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get a little watch time in there. That's going to help us monetize as well. Shameless plug, but there it is, folks.
There it is. I got to say, too, I got to give a shout out to the chats. The chats are on fire today. You got Kincaid. I'm in Missouri. Yes, they did this to all accounts on Facebook and still doing it today. Oh, yeah, we see it all the time. We told the story last week on the podcast. We played a snippet of the State of the Union address, and it got fact checked. It was like a 4-minute snippet, and Facebook is suppressing that page right now
because
for 4
we
minutes.
posted a video, public access from C-SPAN, in which a politician said something, and so we simply said, "Here's what they're saying on C-SPAN."
Right?
And Facebook didn't like that.
Yeah. Hey, and shout out Split Rock Coffee. It's our favorite coffee place. Go to splitrockcoffee.com, promo code Todd10. And I will give a shout out. Send prayers to Paul. He is the CEO of Split Rock Coffee. His mom is really sick right now. She had aggressive cancer that they just found out about very recently. So he's with his mom, Paul. We're praying for you and your family. Other great comments, Peter. Free speech is just the right to say what you want. Buyer beware. Exactly. We live in America where people should be able to say what they want, what they think. Mel, we love you. Get rid of Biden. God, I hope so. And I think Michelle really summed it up best. These people live in a fantasy land with their EVs and green new hopes. I'm just sick of it. Yeah, if I want an electric car, I'll go golfing. They got nice little ones on the course, Todd, where you can kind of turn it on.
Yeah, they have cart girls too.
Yeah,
but yeah, ask your Democrat voting Tesla driving, or maybe it's like a Prius driving neighbor. Where does that energy come from when you plug your car into the wall? Just wait for them to answer that question.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to the dude earlier who says lock up Trump 1,000 times, he is one of those 40%. And folks, like we said, 40% of the nation believes the bloodbath hoax. It's a week old. It was debunked in hours, but it shows you how corrupt our media is, because they're still going to run with this. It's just truly out there.
And I can't get over, Jason, Joe Biden launched his 2020 presidential campaign on the Charlottesville hoax that Donald Trump said that there were fine people on both sides, and commenting and celebrating the neo-Nazis in that march. We debunked that. That was debunked in almost real time as well. But every single Biden voter probably believed that they were voting for a decent human being because Donald Trump supported all these KKK neo-Nazi types.
Yeah. It's just, folks, if you don't hate the media yet, just keep watching, because we're going to show some more. Where do we travel to next, Todd?
Well, you don't hate the media enough. I don't think you hate some of these Democrat politicians enough. Jason, we have a clip of Jasmine Crockett. I think she's from the Houston, Texas area. I could be wrong about that. But if you just want to see arrogance and smugness and cluelessness in action, I mean, this woman is disgusting. Should we just pivot to her for a second?
Yeah, and Kevin called it out. Impeach Joe Biden. He's a crook. So this was actual commentary that was in the impeachment hearing for Joe Biden. And just to frame this up, they did initial discovery, and now they're doing hearings where they're bringing in witnesses to testify about Joe Biden's corruption. The people being interviewed are Tony Bobolinsky, Len Parnas, and I forget the other guy's name. 2 of the 3 worked directly with Hunter Biden, Devin Archer, and that group in the time when Joe Biden was vice president. He has very shocking allegations that he has supported with documentation submitted to the committee that showed, here's when Joe Biden's did these different things. We'll get to a clip of it here in a sec. But this hearing is for the members of the House of Representatives. This is a business partner of Joe Biden's or Hunter Biden's. Confirmed for sure, Hunter Biden's. They're alleging that he was business partner of Joe Biden's. And this is how Jamel Crockett dealt with him.
Now, so far in this hearing, it has felt like the worst episode of The Apprentice. I'm sure you're familiar with that show. It seems like my colleagues and maybe you and some others are trying to become the next vice president of the United States of America. You're auditioning or something like that, because Mr. Bobulinski, I know that you take exception to the fact that your credibility has been called into question over and over. But when someone comes to testify under oath, whether it's before this committee, behind closed doors, or in person, then we have to evaluate someone's credibility. And sir, I definitely have always had issues with your credibility, as I know that you are very well aware of. So let me remind you of what happened behind closed doors.
Well, you should ask Ro Khan about my credibility.
I haven't asked you a question. Okay?
You are?
When I haven't. So when I ask you a question, that's when you answer. Otherwise, I'm talking. So,
excuse me?
With my time, because it's my time, I want to be clear that when we were behind closed doors, you called a number of people liars. You called the Wall Street Journal liars. You called Cassidy Hutchinson a liar. You called the FBI a liar. You called Rob Walker a liar. You called James Gilliar a liar. You called Hunter Biden a liar. You called Jim Biden a liar. And just today, you added to your list, you called my colleague, Congressman Mr. Goldman, a liar as well. It seems like, according to you, the only person that's telling the truth is you, and everyone else is lying. But I want to move on to something else.
Is that a question?
It's not a question.
Oh, okay.
You'll know when I ask you a question, I promise.
Thank you.
God. They live in a different world.
I was going to say, I almost need to don the clown wig when people like, I mean, she comes out, first of all, if she was my cashier at the dollar store in the urban area, I'd be like, whatever, girlfriend, like, what are you talking about? She goes on a 5-minute soliloquy talking about nothing. How about you ask him a question? How about you refute his evidence? How about you do anything instead of acting like a ridiculous troll? Now, folks, remember that 40% we talked about? They saw this and they thought, you go, girlfriend. Oh, she is showing him. This made all the rounds on the left-wing media, mainstream media, social media, and they thought she owned him. She didn't own nothing. She gave a speech showing that she's uneducated and she has poor vocabulary.
Poor everything, Jason. Yeah. There's things that you can't say on social media right now, so I'm going to refrain from that. I think she kind of said it for herself, folks. This is who Democrats want. And it is so partisan. I think of all the things we have seen so far, that they are not even willing to entertain the idea that Joe Biden did something wrong, just exposes them as complete frauds. They have no interest in truth. They have no interest in bettering this country. They are hacks, plain and simple. And this testimony right here is exhibit 1 billion at this point. Maybe if she had an open mind, she would say, well, let's hear what you have. Let's see where the evidence takes us. Not interested at all. The complete opposite of what they did when Donald Trump was president and they impeached him, when they had very little evidence and they decided he was guilty right away. Now they hear lots of evidence, and instead of exploring that, they're just going to pretend that this witness has no credibility. And I don't know, Jason, in my world, if you are a former business associate and you are suggesting that you saw certain things, heard certain things, that might lend a little bit of credibility because you know what was happening on the inside. But they don't want any of that. They got to play team ball. It is disgusting, absurd, all the rest.
But it gets worse, Todd.
It gets so much worse. I wish we were done. Should we go to AOC?
Let's go to AOC.
Is it your testimony today that you personally witnessed President Joe Biden commit a crime?
I believe the fact that he was sitting with me while I was putting together a business
Did you
deal,
witness the president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
And what crime have you witnessed?
How much time do I have to go through it?
It is simple. You name the crime. Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO and conspiracy.
What is it? What is the crime, sir?
You
Specifically.
you asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with. Corruption
Excuse
statute.
me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime. It is a category. What is the
It's a category of crimes that you.
I got to pause that there. When I showed this clip to my wife, she says, "Does AOC want to call Fannie Willis in Georgia? Because hey, Todd, what's Trump getting charged with in Georgia?"
Off the top of my head, I thought it was RICO.
Oh,
Is that not a crime anymore?
Evidently not. Let's continue.
You're then charged.
You have charges.
A long 100.
You have charges. Sir, please
Want me to name the exact statute under RICO?
Yes.
Well, it's funny. In this committee room, everyone's not here. There's over 18
all right, sir. I reclaim my
lawyers that went to law school.
I reclaim my
And that is why they don't ask questions.
And I want to say there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, AOC says RICO's not a crime. RICO is a crime. That's what they're charging Donald Trump with. It's actually a series of crimes where there's a bunch of things that fall under the RICO statute. Notice, and everybody clamped onto that. On the right, they're like, oh my gosh. On the left, they played this same clip, and people thought AOC owned him. Oh my gosh. And on the right, we're like, she didn't even know RICO's crimes. But
again, all these Democrat voters don't know anything either. That sounds good to them. Oh, it's not a crime anymore. I'll wait till the media tells me that it is a crime for Donald Trump, and they will have no problem living with that dissonance.
Well, that's what's funny is you'll see like one tweet saying, oh yeah, lock Donald Trump up for RICO, and oh, look at AOC own him. Here's the bigger point I want to make. The members of Congress, it is their job to determine what laws Joe Biden broke, if any. It is not Tony Bobulinski's job to tell her the statute number. He testified, and he even said it there. Like, I sat there while he did a business deal with China while he was vice president. That seems like it breaks some law. And her owning of him, and the headlines you'll see on the left is AOC challenges Tony Bobulinski to name what crime he broke, and he can't. Folks, that's not his job. His job is to go in there as a businessman and say, yeah, I was sitting right next to Joe Biden when he was vice president, and he conducted this business deal. And this clip got played all over, and the left plays it like it was owned. And actually, Stan hit the nail on the head.
Oh, you want to go to Stan?
Or no, let's do Kincaid's.
I love this guy. I think we're both clicking at the same time. Folks, how many Kincaids are out there? Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Kincaid writes, I've never voted for anyone, but what they're doing to Mr. Trump is so sick and money hungry. I will be voting for Mr. Trump for the first time in my life at 53 years old. Their lies will catch up to them in the future. May God be with this man always. This is the result. I think, Jason, if there's a silver lining to all these shenanigans, is that regular people that want nothing to do with politics, they want to focus on family, work, community, just being and taking care of themselves. They see what is happening and they say, I don't like the direction my country is headed. They have been woken up unintentionally by the regime when they continue to do this. Kincaid, thanks for the comment. Love your vote in 2024. Jason and I are right there with you.
Yeah, and Kincaid, there's millions of people like you, and I guarantee your Democrat friends, because we all have Democrat friends. One of my best friends is a Democrat. They haven't seen and they don't understand how ridiculous this is and the target. And Stan, I wanted to lean into this a little bit. Stan said she's an enlightened moron. And Stan, it's pretty smart. Actually, what's funny is AOC's an actress. They're just giving her a script to read. If you go back and you look into AOC and how she came to be, they were looking for people that they could hire, and they held auditions through a PAC for who they were going to nominate for this House seat. It's really a fascinating story. Someday we'll have to go into it.
That would be an interesting podcast episode.
It is, but she's just reading a script. So, and some of these politicians too, I don't think they believe what they're saying. I think they're saying it because whoever's funding their campaigns and making them rich and famous is telling them what to say. And if you think of it, it's no different than if you're going to be an actor in a movie, like they'll send you out there, they'll tell you what to say, and you're going to get a big salary on the back end. It's ridiculous.
And Jason, I thought Barack Obama was going to get rid of lobbying when he was president. I don't know. Maybe that was just another campaign thing that didn't come true. Maybe he meant it.
Yeah. Turns out lobbying's worse than ever.
And folks, if we should start a GoFundMe, I really appreciated Jason's mimicking of AOC and Jasmine Crockett. If we could get a GoFundMe maybe for some nails for Jason, maybe a weave, that would be fantastic. That would be a highlight of our next show.
I gotta say, I just love when they do the let's go, girlfriend. And it's like, you look like an idiot.
Your point was not made with your hand waving and gesticulation here. Let's actually hear something of value from you. But they are empty inside, like you said, bought and paid for. And then I like William's comment. I believe this. I bet she can't even 10 bar. Seems about right. But Jason,
I'm going to say, William, if you've looked at the quality of service we have at restaurants post-COVID, like I think she would fit in with the crowd. Because I don't know about you. Like last night we took the kids. We went to McDonald's. Haven't been to a McDonald's in a while. They couldn't even get our order right. Like it was, my stepdaughter ordered a 4C. She didn't get a 4C. It's ridiculous.
But they want them to be paid $20 an hour. So there you go.
Right. Oh, where do we travel to next?
Oh, well, we have Nancy Mace. So if you want to talk about owning and hearings, it is very one-sided. It is some of the Republicans, some of the more America First Republicans, because there is a tiny window of Republicans that we actually get behind. But Nancy Mace does an excellent job asking some rapid-fire questions. Let's take a look at that.
Mr. Chairman, on March 1st, 2024, Joe Biden stated he did not interact with Hunter or Jim Biden business associates. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter into a record New York Post article. Biden insists he did not interact with his
Without objection to order.
We're going to go fast here. I have strictly yes or no questions. On that note, the New York Post article, Joe Biden also said, read the record of every single witness. So I did. I first read Devin Archer's deposition, and he interacted with Joe Biden. Then I read the transcripts of Wab Walker, Eric Schwerin, George Burgess, Kevin Morris, Tony Bobulinski, and Jason Galanis. And every single one of them interacted with Joe Biden. And that's just the people we interviewed. Mr. Galanis, my first questions are for you. Did Hunter Biden call Joe Biden with Elaine Badarina on the line on May 4th, 2014, yes or no?
Yes.
In that call, did Hunter Biden state on this call with Joe Biden that everything is good and we're moving forward?
Yes, he did.
Okay, on the same call, did Joe Biden in the call was saying, okay, then you be good to my boy?
Yes, he said that as well.
Okay, did Badarina agree to put $20 million into one of Hunter Biden's business projects days later after this phone call?
Yes.
Okay, did Hunter Biden ever take a call from Joe Biden while at the Peninsula Bar in New York?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Did Hunter Biden ever take a call from Joe Biden while at the Peninsula Bar in New York?
Yes, he did.
During this call, did Hunter Biden update Joe Biden on progress in landing a business partnership with Harvest Fund Management?
Yes.
Okay.
Important note, this is when Joe Biden was vice president. And this is one of their business partners testifying under oath.
Okay. Was Harvest a $300 billion Chinese financial services company closely tied to the Chinese Communist Party?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Is Hunter Biden involved with Harvest?
Hunter Biden is involved in Harvest in two ways, through BHR, which is the fund.
Yes or no? Was Hunter
Biden
involved with Harvest? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. As part of the deal.
Extensive emails to that effect.
As part of the deal, did Hunter Biden want the company to reserve a board seat for Joe Biden?
Yes.
Okay. Did Henry Zhao, a Chinese businessman, want assurances Joe Biden would join the board? Yes or no?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Did
He's
Hunter
expressed
Biden?
that in emails as well.
Okay. Thank you. Did Hunter Biden draft an email stating, "Please also remind Henry Zhao of our conversation about a board seat for a certain relation of mine. Devin and I golfed with that relation earlier this week, and we discussed this very idea again. And as always, he remains very, very keen on the opportunity." Here is a photo of Joe Biden and Devin Archer and Hunter Biden golfing days before the alleged email draft. Do you believe a certain relation of mine refers to Joe Biden?
I don't think there's any question. It was based on first-hand conversations with Devin Archer, who was in that picture and at that golf meeting.
Did you ever meet with Devin Archer where Hunter took calls from his father?
Yes.
Okay, during one of these phone calls, and Hunter Biden told Joe Biden that he and Henry Zhao needed help getting, quote, getting across the finish line.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, Mr. Bobolinsky, do you recall receiving an email that floated the possibility of giving 10% ownership of Sinohawk to Joe Biden through Hunter Biden?
Yes.
Okay, my last questions are for both of you very quickly. Mr. Bobolinsky and Mr. Galanis, you both stated you were told not to use Joe Biden's name in communications, correct, Mr. Bobolinsky?
Correct.
Mr. Galanis?
Yes.
Okay. Did Joe Biden participate in phone conversations and meetings with Hunter Biden, his business associates, and foreign interests, yes or no? Mr. Bobolinsky?
He clearly did. He met
Okay,
me
Mr.
twice.
Galanis, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. In Hunter Biden's deposition, he said he did not involve his father in his business. Did Hunter Biden lie under oath, yes or no? Mr. Bobolinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Galanis?
If that's what he said, yes, I will be
Okay.
true.
Is Joe Biden lying when he says he did not interact with Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, their business partners, or forward interests? Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Galanis?
Yes.
All right.
You know, when I think of witness protection programs, I think it was created for guys like this.
Right.
And folks, I am not a legally trained person. I am not a lawyer. I have no legal background in that sense. However, having watched a couple movies, My Cousin Vinny, chief among them, I feel like I have a little legal expertise. If I were to be a Democrat and offer a cross-examination of these witnesses, might I try to poke holes in their testimony? And look, that's a large task to ask. Yes, 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 yes to all those damning questions. But that would be the way you go about this hearing. Okay, he said that when the Republican was asking it. I need to now try to find a way that there is plausible deniability or create some doubt that maybe that yes question has a little bit more context. But as we showed in the clips, Jasmine Crockett, AOC, we could have shown every single Dem because they all toe the party line. You notice that none of that happened. AOC decided to say that RICO was not a law. Jasmine Crockett said you will speak when spoken to and ask a question, completely ignoring any content whatsoever in this hearing. Folks, if that doesn't prompt a few questions in you, like maybe they're onto something, I don't know what to say to you, because it certainly makes me wonder. They have no defense right now. Their defense is speaking over the witnesses and name calling them. That's it.
Very well said, Todd. And I mean, let's put this in perspective. Two of the business partners of Hunter Biden and Devin Archer clearly testify under oath that they worked through Hunter conducting business with Joe Biden. He's got a board seat on this company he's going to get when he's out of office. We don't want to use his name in communication. And like Todd said, if they had any way to refute these facts, they would have refuted them. But instead, they called them names. Now, you can disagree with this assessment. Like, maybe Joe Biden didn't do business. There you go, Facebook. But at least this should prompt even the most, anybody with a brain cell should at least go, holy cow, it sounds like something's here. Like, why would these guys go testify under oath in front of Congress for that? The news media should be playing the Nancy Mace clip. Like, here are facts both of his business partners confirmed, because we keep hearing there's no evidence. There's no evidence. So emails, text messages, and the live testimony of their business partners doesn't qualify. Like, that seems like evidence to me, Todd.
At a bare minimum, it seems like something you could at least counter. I mean, that seems pretty compelling to me. And again, maybe it's not the whole story. I mean, we're coming into this with an open mind. I have my theories about what might have happened. It sounds pretty convincing to me if this is the truth. But again, we have no competing narratives because Democrats are not offering that.
Right. It's truly, truly remarkable. Todd, I think before we go for the week, because we're down to about 5 minutes left, we got to hit the border story. Should we hit the border story?
We got to hit the border story. Folks, it is worse than you can imagine because, once again, this is not in Joe Biden's interest to play clips over and over again of your country getting invaded. I don't know another word to use, Jason, when I see clips like we're going to show here in just a second. You want to
and I'm going to preface this because I think we have a smart audience. And looking at the comments and the engagement and the notes we get from people, we have an audience that can see through this. Folks, this is going to be the next bloodbath hoax. So we started this episode debunking the bloodbath hoax, but we're going to show this clip came out last night, and we can't validate the validity of it or what exactly happened. but it shows an interaction with the Texas National Guard and some of the newcomers to our country, as Kamala Harris likes to call them. There's approximately 1 to 200 military-age males in there.
That is your border, folks.
Happened last night. You saw all those people push past Texas National Guard, go storming to the gate where the gate was shut. This is horrifying. Name another country in the world where they would allow this to happen. And this is like, this should be one of those things we all agree as Americans that this is not okay.
This should be a flashpoint wake-up call. Everyone sees this video, has to see this video, and if you are not troubled and terrified of what you are witnessing, maybe you should switch places with them and go to their country, because this cannot stand. You have no country if this is allowed. And Jason, when I saw this, I kept thinking about not only all young military-aged males, I don't know where all the families are, but that sense of entitlement. These folks rushing the gates have no fear for their safety, and they think they have every right to come in here. And when they see the wall, they get mad. And that's the mentality that we have bred as a nation by promising these folks so many freebies and just letting so many of them in. 7-8 million at this point, more than the population of like 35 states. But the entitlement mentality that they think they can just show up to America, get everything handed to them, rush the gates. This is not how you defend a nation. I don't know what we're allowed to say on Facebook, but I see that those individuals in our Texas Guard are carrying some things. And I mean,
right.
Put that together.
Well, and it's funny because there's been a ton of news stories from Lack and Riley to there's a squatter story that we shared on our Rumble channel. And I think we wrote an article on the Tribune about it. So the border, this is going to be the undoing of the Joe Biden administration, because the day he was elected, or that first week, he passed over 90 executive actions undoing Trump executive orders. And then they're trying to get this new immigration legislation passed. And we broke it down on a previous episode, but the immigration legislation that they're talking about is not restricting more people coming in. It still allows like 2 million people to come in a year. It just speeds up the processing. Another interesting note on immigration this week, 200,000 deportations were, so these are people who came in, waited the 6 or 7, however many years to get their case. The judge heard their case and said, you need to go home. You don't qualify. 200,000 of those cases got thrown out because the Biden DOJ didn't file their paperwork. They missed a paperwork step. So those people now get to stay forever.
What a convenient oops.
Yeah, exactly.
Jason, I got
go
one
ahead.
more. I want to give Arnold a shout out. Arnold's a longtime listener, viewer here, but George Kelly, I believe George Kelly, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, Arizona rancher who owns some property along the border, saw some people coming across. Again, this is his private property, shoots and kills one. And I think it's still a debated narrative of what exactly happened there, but he was on the side where one of the crossers was killed, charged for murder for potentially defending himself, but certainly defending his property. They hate your freedom. They hate that you have rights like life and property. And Arnold goes on to say, and this is a huge story that, again, the media is not covering, the government says that illegals are allowed to have guns. One Obama-appointed judge said that illegals, the Second Amendment applies to them, whereas, as he says, while they try to take ours, you have seen day after day, Democrats try to restrict your access to the Second Amendment. This is fantasy. This is so far-fetched at this point. They can have guns. You cannot.
Yeah, and it's funny. There's so many of these stories coming out. Todd and I could do a 4-hour podcast. I mean, it's actually hard to pare it down. You've got guys, squatters' rights in some states. Like I say, go check out the AmericanTribune.com. We try to cover this, or follow Todd and I on Twitter. Like there's a ton of things. But we got to end on the Joe Scarborough clip. So this happened last night. This video went round and round on the thing. Now, for those paying attention, for 3 years, Democrats have told us the border's secure, the border's fine. KJP's told us that. Kamala Harris has told us that. Joe Biden, everybody in the administration, the border's fine. Now, when Democrats had the House and Senate, they didn't need to pass any more legislation for the border. Now they passed this bill and they say Trump didn't like it. It was a horrible bill. We've covered it on the podcast. So now we've gone from the border's fine and secure to the border's Trump's fault. Let's play our way, Todd.
Oh, I hope we have this clip here. It was downloaded.
Did you find it?
We are going to have to fill in some airtime while we get this clip, Jason.
Oh my gosh. And this is going to be important for people to see because it was fascinating because last night when we saw this clip and I was talking with the wife about it, I'm like, I wonder how Democrats are going to spin this. It's got to be the blame Trump. And, if you think of the timeline, we heard, Trump's border policies were inhumane. And then we heard that, no, Trump's an evil guy. And then we heard, Joe Biden secured the border secure. As all these crimes happen, as all these things happen, you'd have to suspend disbelief. Like you just, if you're one of those 40% that believe this garbage, I don't even know what to say. I don't know how you get up and brush your teeth or any of that stuff.
But here it is. Let's listen to Joe himself.
Can't get rid of them. I would carry this around because see this onslaught headline? The only thing the Post didn't tell you is Donald Trump said, blame me for this. Donald Trump said, kill the bill and blame me for everything that happens after this point. Donald Trump said, blame me. So yes, Donald, we are blaming you. We're blaming Mini-Me Mike Johnson for following your orders. We're blaming Republicans who begged for a tough border bill, but like the Wall Street Journal editorial page said, couldn't take yes for an answer. So yes, there is an onslaught in the southern border still. And it's all Donald Trump's fault. You know who says that? Donald Trump. Donald Trump says blame him for this.
Donald Trump has not been president of the United States for over 3 years now. Donald Trump had executive orders in place that prevented what's happening in the border. These are all facts. Joe Biden passed over 90 executive actions related to the border. We've been told for 2.5 years the border's secure. Now it's clear to anybody with a functioning brain cell that it's not. And Joe Scarborough gets on a show with however many followers he has and says it's Donald Trump's fault. If you are so brain dead that you believe that, I don't know how you got out of bed this morning, how you brushed your teeth, how you're going to drive to your job today. Like you are mentally impaired if you aren't seeing the nonsense.
And if you think that Republicans should have signed off on that bill, and again, they call it bipartisan, so that should already raise red flags. I don't like it when Washington, D.C. agrees, but if you go read the text of the bill and you see that they will let 2 million folks in per year, and you think that is solving the border crisis, like Jason said, I don't know how you function. That bill was a disaster. I am glad it got shut down. The correct number of people coming in here illegally, Jason, what's the correct number for illegal entries?
Zero,
not 2 million. If you think that was a good border bill, I'm going to circle back to what we already said. I don't know how you get up in the morning.
Yeah. Folks, Todd coined this phrase a few episodes ago, like you don't hate the media enough. And I think we almost need that on a shirt, that like media is the enemy of the people. You don't hate them enough. But here's the mission for all the people that listen or watch Freedom from the Press podcast. First, thank you so much. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you visiting our website, subscribing to our work. Most importantly, we need to you to share this. And Kincaid, shout out to you. Thank you for watching, and we're going to keep sharing the truth. But we need your help, Kincaid. We need you to share content like this with people, especially people you don't agree with. Like, we're two normal dudes from Minnesota who got sick of seeing people be lied to. See our friends and family become victims of this media propaganda. And you can even show them that bloodbath clip, and they still think Donald Trump was talking about shooting and killing people. And we need to stop that, or we're going to lose this nation. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. Share the work. Todd, I'll leave the last word to you.
You know, just one more thank you, folks. We come here every Friday. Just want to get a little truth in front of you. Hope you enjoy it. And like Jason said, share, like, get this message out far and wide, and share it with your Biden voting friends and family members. And let's see if we can change one mind at a time. But thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back next Friday.